Howdy, howdy, y'all. Okay, there we go. That works. It's going to be a quick show today, and you'll have to apologize. I'm only working with two monitors instead of the usual four today. So, this is going to be a little bit more fun. So, I have shortened things up a little bit. Drop. Oh, wrong key. Let me fix that. I have made a bit.ly link. So it has all the links down in one location instead of me dropping a whole bunch of stuff all at once. So go check that out. And yeah, we're just going to basically hop right into it. Let me switch over here. And hi, Mark.
Hello.
Welcome. So,
I don't know why I was so surprised by that.
you weren't ready for it.
Nope.
That's what it was. So today we have Mark from Halibut Electronics. Get my hands in frame here, and we're going to talk a little bit about OHISS and what's going on with Halibut. Welcome, Mark.
Only one S.
Only one S. Okay, one S.
OHIS.
Got it.
That's okay. Yeah, how you doing?
I'm doing.
Thanks for having me on.
So tell us a little bit about you, Halibut Electronics, and how you got here.
All right. So my name is Mark Smith. I'm N6MTS. I'm in the initials as call sign club. Shout out if you are also in the initials as call sign club. I've been a ham since 1992-ish. When I was in high school, that's when I got my license. I'm kind of old. Well, actually not that old, because as we were talking about before the show started, the 90s were only about 10 years ago, and I stand by that statement. So yeah, I got my ham license back in 92, and have been active mostly on with a little bit of off ever since then. However, my career was mostly spent in IT, doing computer nerd stuff, systems administration, network engineering, information security, that kind of stuff. I like to summarize it as I make the internet work. And like all the things that I did were kind of in service of making the internet stuff happen. And then in 2001, I decided that starting a hardware company during a global semiconductor shortage was less stressful than the work I was doing at the time. So I left the IT industry and started my own company. And that is Halibut Electronics. And I've brought electrical engineering, which has always been a hobby of mine, brought that to my day job, and just started designing and thinking about all of those projects that I've wanted to work on over the years, problems I wanted to solve in the ham radio space, but didn't have the time or energy or the budget for, and found a bunch of them and decided to turn it into a business.
Wonderful. So, give us a little background on OHIS and what it is and what it can do. The big reason why I brought you on today is I want to ask, the ultimate question here. What's going on with OHIS? Because there have been so many rumors in the community, both Reddit, Facebook, etc. They're like, "Oh, Mark's not doing anything with it anymore. It's dead. The website doesn't work. Website works fine, so we know that." But what is OHIS and what's going on with it?
Thank you for telling me that those rumors are going on. I am not good at keeping up on Reddit or social media or anything like that. So I haven't seen those. And if I had, I would have responded to them to kind of fill in the blanks. So thank you for giving me that opportunity now.
Oh, of course.
Short answer is OHIS is not dead. I will confirm, however, that I absolutely suck at web design. And so ohis.org is the website that I use to host the specification. It sucks. It's terrible. If you are a better web designer than I am and want to come in and contribute to the project, the standard, and help out with that, please contact me, mark@halibut.com. I would love to get some help from somebody. Yeah, it's just a very simple WordPress site with one page on it with links to documents and whatnot. And then the video that I gave at the QSO Today Ham Expo back in the days, talking about OHIS. But let's talk about what OHIS is. It stands for Open Headset Interconnect standard. That's a lot of words. What does that mean? Open, meaning that it is not a proprietary standard. It is an open standard. I want everyone to start using this standard if they can. Open headset meaning that's just kind of a summary for microphone, speaker, and PTT. What are the interface between the user and the radio, right?
Right.
And interconnect, meaning that I want to standardize the connections between the user and the radio. You go out and buy a Heil headset right now, you can't just go plug it into any old radio. You need an adapter that goes from that headset to that radio, right? You buy another radio, you need another adapter. You buy another headset, you need 2 new adapters, right? It just, you end up with this full mesh of adapters between all your different headsets and all your different radios. In a home shack where you've only got one headset, it's not that big of a deal. But if you go into a multi-user environment like an EOC or a club shack or a field day event, I've got my own headset. It's got my ear goobers in it already. I want to be able to just sit down and plug that headset into any radio and start operating, right?
Right.
So that's the interconnect part. And then standard, meaning that it is a defined standard. There's a document. It describes all of the physical connectors, the pinouts, the signal levels, all that kind of stuff, you know. So it should be enough information in the document to let you implement your own OHIS compliant thing. And if it's not, please reach out to me and I will fix the document and include that in there.
There we go. So what is show us some examples of what OHIS is, if you have them on deck.
So, sure. So when you look at OHIS, a physical device, it's just an RJ45 socket. So the physical standard is RJ45. It looks like an Ethernet port or an RS485 port, or a lot of microphone connectors these days are RJ45. So we haven't done anything special with the physical connection. Electrically, it's all analog. It is not Ethernet, despite the fact that it's using Ethernet style cabling, category 5, Cat 5 cables or higher, whatever. It is not Ethernet. It is not digital. It's entirely analog. The microphone audio is on one pair, so you have mic plus and mic ground. The headphone audio has its own return path for ground, so you got headphone left, headphone right, and ground for the headphone audio. So that's 2 plus 3 pins. That's 5 pins total right now. Then you've also got VCC and ground, so you got plus 5 volts. That is provided by the radio and can be sent down the OHIS cable to power downstream devices if you want to. And then PTT is a contact closure to that power ground. So you'll notice that I've said 3 different grounds. We have a microphone ground, we have a headphone ground, and we have a power ground. And technically we have a 4th because the shield is also part of the spec. It is all of this should be shielded. You can get away without shielding it if the cable runs are short, but it really should be better. It would be better if it were shielded. All the microphone signals, the microphone signal is the one that really needs to be shielded because it's a very low signal. And it's the one that's going to end up getting amplified at the far end, and any noise that gets picked up will be amplified as well. So that should be shielded, but it is at least over a pair, a twisted pair, which allows, if you are designing your own circuit, you can terminate that twisted pair. If you terminate it correctly and don't just shunt one side to ground and the other side into your signal, you can cancel any noise that has been picked up. It's kind of a pseudo balanced signal. So anyway, got pretty nerdy there.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah, exactly. So the idea being that it should be exactly the same signals that you would get in other connectors on the radio, except all in one connector for this interface between the user and the user and the radio. And we are standardizing the levels, right? So right now, the 3 big manufacturers of HF radios, you got Kenwood, ICOM, and Yaesu, right?
Right.
Kenwood and Yaesu use dynamic microphones. ICOM uses an electret microphone. Those are different standards. You can't plug one of those microphones into something expecting the other and expect it to work, because it won't. And in the worst case, you might damage your microphone. If you plug a dynamic into something expecting an electret, it'll try and pass a DC current through the microphone element, and that could damage it.
Would not be fun.
It would not be fun. Would not be a good day.
No.
During testing of these things, there have been situations where I heard audio coming out of my microphone because I had accidentally connected the microphone to the headphone, and it was driving current up and moving the the diaphragm element of a dynamic microphone, and I literally heard audio coming out of it. Once I figured out where that audio was coming from, I'm like, oh my gosh, did I damage anything? Thankfully, I did not. Thankfully, I did not. So anyway, microphone levels are standardized at electret level, and I'll explain why in a second. So it doesn't matter what your radio takes. Oh, let me go back and go back to where I was describing what the problem is that we're trying to solve, right?
Yes.
So I've got this headset, and I've got an adapter, and then I've got a radio, and that adapter connects to that headset on this side and that radio on this side. And if either one of those changes, I need to get a new adapter. So I've defined this standard, and in an ideal world, all the radio manufacturers would adopt the standard natively, and you'd have an OHIS port on your radio that you can just plug into. Same thing with the headset manufacturers. You'd get a OHIS cable that you plug into your headset, or an adapter down at the connector end, and you'd be able to just plug in any OHIS certified radio, compatible radio.
Right.
But I realize that it's going to be a while until we get the manufacturers on board and implementing this standard, right? They don't like to move quickly. So instead, what I've done is I've taken that one adapter and split it into two parts. Okay, so now I've got one adapter for my headset that is unique to that headset, but doesn't care what radio it's plugged into. And it converts whatever that headset is into the standard. Same thing on the radio side. I've got an adapter that's unique to this radio, but it doesn't care what headset it plugs into it, and converts that radio into the standard interface.
Right.
So now all of my radios have a standard interface, and all of my headsets have a standard interface. And I can connect any headset into any radio, right? And you don't have to know what the pairing is going to be. And for any new device that you add to the ecosystem, you only ever have to buy one adapter for that device to make that device have a standard interface. And now everything can connect to everything else.
Okay.
So one of the obvious questions is going to be, how do you handle things like that? A headset for an ICOM plugged into a Kenwood radio, right? I was mentioning how earlier they have different microphone standards. That is handled by the adapters that we make for OHIS. So if your headset has an electret microphone on it, then it is already OHIS compliant. You don't have to do anything to that microphone. You can just connect it straight through the microphone directly to the OHIS connector on that headset, right? No adaptation required. But the radio, let's say in this example, we're talking about the radio is expecting a dynamic microphone. The standard OHIS is electret. So no matter what headset is plugged into it, by the time it hits that radio adapter, it will look like an electret signal. And so the radio adapter is responsible for converting that down into a dynamic microphone signal to plug into the radio. Okay. The flip side of that is, let's say you had a headset that is a dynamic microphone. You would need to put a preamp in that headset adapter to take that dynamic microphone and bring its level up and make it compatible with an electret microphone, or with a device that's expecting an electret microphone.
Right.
So does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, so we've got these adapters that are responsible for converting whatever my device is, whether it's a dynamic or an electret microphone, whether it's headphones or powered speakers or you know, Bluetooth or any audio that source or sync that you want, that adapter is responsible for converting from OHIS into whatever it is that you want to have on the user side. And the same on the radio side. It is the radio adapter is responsible for converting whatever the radio is into the standard. So the receive standard is headphone audio, right?
Right.
Left and right audio with a shared ground and low enough impedance that it can drive headphones. All right. Well, that will not drive a speaker, right? So if I want to have speakers on my desk instead of headphones on my desk, then the user adapter will need to take that headphone signal and amplify it up to speaker level and run it through speakers. Similarly, if my radio only has a speaker output, right, that speaker output will be way too loud to run directly into headphones. So the radio adapter will take the speaker out from the radio and convert it into a stereo headphone signal and send it out over OHIS.
Okay, that makes sense. I was looking here. Let me switch over on this side here. There we go. Example user devices in your manual. This is nice.
Yeah. Yes. So that diagram right there shows, over on the left-hand side of that, we're talking about all of the user devices there. In an ideal world, we'd have an OHIS compliant headphone or headset.
Right.
And it would just have an OHIS port in it natively. Otherwise, we got a user adapter, and the middle adapter there converts a headset and a PTT into OHIS. But the bottom one isn't a headset; it's a microphone, like this microphone,
right,
and speakers, right? Like I've got speakers on the wall behind me that I'm using right now, and maybe a foot switch that is the PTT, right? That's still a headset in the OHIS sense of it's a something that I use to transmit audio to the radio. I can consume that receive audio, and I can signal a PTT.
Right. Okay, so good question here from myself. What if you have a headset? Because I like using my earbuds a lot. What if you have a headset and a dynamic mic, like a studio mic, like what you have in front of you right now, and that goes to two different radios?
Yeah.
Yaesu and ICOM.
Yeah. So in the case that you described, the diagrams that are on that screen are only examples.
Okay.
Right. So you can have a professional grade XLR dynamic microphone on a boom on your desk and headphones instead of speakers. Right. It's mix and match. It's all about what the user adapter converts it to. Right.
Fantastic.
From an OHIS perspective, OHIS is just the standard in the middle of that diagram. Right. It doesn't describe anything about the devices on the other side of the OHIS adapter. Right.
Okay.
So it's got OHIS on one side and then whatever you want on the other side. And converting between those two is the responsibility of the adapter.
Got it. Okay. What else? Let's switch back over here. Jody says the M17 modem module has an OHIS port designed in. That's where OHIS support starts, with maker-level projects that are more flexible than the big manufacturers. Absolutely.
Agreed. I worked with the M17 folks to get that in there and make sure it was compliant and did all the things that they needed it to do, and that OHIS needed it to do as well. I think they may have removed it from the more recent version or the ones that they're working on right now, but I need to get back to them and talk to them about that. But yeah, it was put in on the first revision of Module 17 is what they called it.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So, any special tips or tricks about OHIS? What's coming up for you?
So, this is where I get to take my standards advocacy hat off and put on my commercial product hat.
Yes.
Right. So, I keep those two things very separate. I want to be very clear. If you are a manufacturer and you want to integrate OHIS into your product that competes with my products, I will help you do that. I am more interested in the standard advocacy and adoption than I am in maintaining, any sort of proprietary information about how to do this or anything like that. Right? That's the
Right.
open part of the standard. So. To keep that very clear, I'm going to take off the standards advocacy hat for a second and put on my commercial product hat. Hey, I run a company called Halibut Electronics. Guess what? I sell adapters. Right? I sell a radio adapter that's kind of the Cadillac of radio adapters. I'll go into the details on that. I also sell a user adapter that is the Cadillac of user adapters. I also sell a Honda Civic of radio adapters. So part of my work for OHIS has been to define an open source user adapter that works on the majority of headsets that are out there in the world. There are some weird edge cases that it may not support, but the vast majority of any headset you buy, like the ICOM, Radio Sport, PC gaming headsets off the internet, anything that's got an electret or a dynamic microphone and is standard headphones, it'll work. Anyway, where was I going with this? Yeah, so I sell these adapters, and you can go to my website, electronics.halibut.com, and buy all the adapters you need to be able to OHIS-ify your shack if you are so interested. The other thing that I am doing, and these are not part of the open standard, the other thing I am doing is I am creating devices that go between the user and the radio. Right? So let's think of a field day event. And we're talking casual field day here, right? Your club goes out to a park and, 3/4 of the people are there because of the barbecue. And you got a few hardcore nerds who want to do all of the operating, right? Like that kind of casual event. Typically, you'll have an operator and a logger. You'll have two people sitting in front of a radio, one of whom is doing the radio stuff. He's either calling CQ or responding, hunting and pecking, hunting and pouncing, I guess. And then the other one is sitting there listening to everything that's going on and logging what they're hearing.
Right.
In the old days, you either had both of them listening to speakers, and it's a very noisy environment, and you can never hear what's going on in the speaker. In the best case, you might have a headphone splitter, and it goes out to two separate headphones, and then the operator has their hand mic, and they're operating the radio. But whenever the logger needs to ask the operator a question of like, what was that call sign, or what was I didn't catch the report or anything like that, both operators are, taking their headphones off. What was that? You're doing this all the time. You can't hear each other.
Right.
So what I wanted was a device kind of like what you find in the cockpit of an airplane, where you've got two headsets. Each headset has a microphone and an intercom between the two users. So the two users can hear each other all the time. They've got a direct intercom between their headsets. They can also both hear the radio. And whichever user hits their PTT, their microphone audio will get sent to the radio, but not the other one. Right?
Yeah.
So in our logger and operator example that we just had, the operator is the one hitting the PTT and their microphone is going to the radio, but they can both hear the radio and they can both hear each other. They can talk. Let's say the operator needs to get up and use the restroom. Well, maybe the logger will take over and start operating for a bit. You don't have to do anything with the PTTs or the foot switches or anything else. As soon as that logger hits their PTT, their microphone audio gets sent up to the radio. So you can do any sort of arbitrary connectivity like that. So that's what I call my contesting console. It connects two users into one radio. It's got a few other features, like it has a powered speaker or a powered speaker output. So it's an output that you can plug into a speaker, and it has its own volume knob on the device. Whenever somebody brings visitors in and you want to show the visitors what's going on, like they can hear the operator directly because they're speaking out loud, but they can't necessarily hear the radio itself because it's in my headphones now. It's not on the speaker.
Right.
So if you want to hear both sides of the conversation, you just turn up the volume on that powered speaker, and now you can hear both sides of that conversation outside. And then at 3 o'clock in the morning, when everyone else is trying to sleep, you turn that down so you minimize noise, right?
Right.
And then kind of the flip side of that is I've got an ambient microphone on the contesting console. So if the logger and operator want to hear what's going on around them, somebody comes up and said, "Hey, dinner's ready," you don't want to miss that message, right? So you can take the ambient microphone and turn it up a little bit and hear what's going on around you, but also turn it down so when you want to be not annoyed anymore.
Okay, let's see here. Jody says, and folks, I will get to the questions here at the end, so I have them starred away so that they're easy to find here. Jody says, I'm eagerly awaiting Mark's contesting console refresh. I see so much potential for field day stations that can let operators do their thing and let the public listen in easily. And I bet you that's it.
This is contesting console, and if you look up here, yeah, it's not focusing. That says version 1.7C. So this is the refreshed version. I just received the boards from manufacturing late last week while I was working on some on some contract work. So I haven't been able to do anything with them yet. But this is the refresh. And so I need to hook them up and test them and make sure they're good. I sure hope they are because I ordered a production quantity of them.
Oh.
1.7B was close enough to correct. There was a problem with A that I thought I fixed in B, but it turns out that the bodge that I made to A that fixed the problem ended up doing two different things, and it was the wrong one of those two that I thought fixed the problem, and so I fixed the wrong one of them. And I got B back and the problem came back, and I'm like, what in the heck is going on? And I fixed the other part of that problem and bodged that fix in there, and I applied that fix to C. I also made C easier to bodge in the same way as I did A and B in case I get it wrong again. So in the worst case, C will have that fix that I know works bodged onto the board. Anyway, long story short, this thing has been a pain in my butt, but it's done and it's ready to go. So this week and next week is when I'm going to be reaching out to current owners of Contesting Console and seeing if they want to do an upgrade, because I promised them an upgrade path to these, and I will be making them available on the website again. So
there you go.
Soon.
Fantastic. Okay, so let's just knock this out real quick. Mark wants to know, he's your neighbor, by the way, what is the best headset for the money?
The one that is most comfortable for you, and unfortunately that is dependent on the person. I have a ginormous noggin, and exactly. Right. So the good headsets like the Heil Pro 7 and the Radio Sport, what is it, RS60, I think, or I'm blanking on the model numbers, whatever. The flagship headsets, they are very good. They are not very comfortable over a long period of time for my head, the way my head works. So the way I have found to be the most comfortable is to use a set of audio headphones, like audiophile headphones. I personally like the Bear Dynamics. DT770s are the 770s are the closed frame, the 990s are the open frame. They both sound amazing. from an audio quality standpoint, and they are redonkulously comfortable for all day wearing. That's what I would wear at my when I was in an office with a bunch of other people, and I wanted to block out outside sound and listen to my music while I was working. I used my DT 1770s, and they're not too expensive. And then you can add a microphone to it using a thing called an Antlion. Antlion is the brand. The device is called a mod mic, MODMIC. It is just this little, it's a electric microphone on a boom with this little magnetic clip thing. You sticky adhere one side of the magnet to your headphones, right? And this is a very small thing. It's really unobtrusive. And you stick that to your good headphones. And then you can magnetically clip this boom mic on there. And it's got active noise cancellation in the microphone element itself. And it has its own wire that goes down and kind of clips to your headphone wires. And so you end up with a headphone connector and a microphone connector, a separate microphone connector. But electrically, it's the exact same thing as what you would get with a PC gaming headset. And so any adapters that use that work with that sort of thing would work with the mod mic in your headphones. That is the most comfortable for me, and that's what I end up using.
There you go, Mark. I hope that helps. And I always bring these along as backups in case these guys fail. But talk about a big head. These $10 headsets broke. Like they do that now just to fit. So yeah, big heads, yeah, absolutely.
I see Amtrak 1007 or 1007, MDR 7506s. Those are super popular headphones. I don't like them. I tried. I really wanted to like the Sonys. The sound profile on them just drove me up the wall. This is more of an audiophile thing. Like I got a turntable right over there and various other things, right? I could not get into the sound of the Sonys. I'm sorry. I just couldn't.
So, let's look at, let me switch. No, I want to go back a page. So get the screen switched over here. On your for sale page, you have the Radio Pro, the User Pro, and then of course the contesting console, which we just talked about.
Yep.
What are the differences between the Radio and the User Pros?
So remember when I said that I took that one adapter between the headset and the radio and I split it into two parts?
Yeah.
Right? The Radio Pro is the radio side of that adapter, and the User Pro is the headset side of that adapter.
Okay.
So to operate, you will need one Radio Pro per radio. In an ideal world, you would have one radio adapter per radio, and the Radio Pro is an example of a radio adapter. It happens to be the only one that's currently available that I'm aware of. But standards advocacy hat back on. You can make your own radio adapter, or hopefully someday some other manufacturer will make a radio adapter that competes with Halibut Electronics. If you want to do that, let me know. I will help you compete with me. The adapters are not where I want to be. I want to be on the contesting console. All right, putting on my commercial product hat. The Radio Pro is a pro product because it has a lot of other snazzy features. Specifically, it has the pass-through. So if I were to, when you plug in your Heil adapter, right, it has the 8-pin round connector that screws into the front of the radio, and it plugs into the microphone socket. I can't have the radio's normal microphone plugged in at the same time, right? I have to disconnect my headset adapter and plug in the microphone if I want to go back and forth. Well, I didn't like that because I wanted my OHIS adapter to be plugged in all the time. So the back side of this, go look at the third picture on the picker. That picture there, you can tell is the backside because it's got the Anderson power pole input.
Right.
So it's got the Anderson, that's where you give it power. This is the backside of it. And you see the description there says connect to the radio's mic and headphone or speaker socket. Right. So you connect this in and it plugs into the the sockets on the radio and makes it so you can't plug in the stock stuff. Go back to the other page, or go back. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I did that backwards.
You did that, yeah.
Yeah.
And then look at the second one.
Let's make that big. There we go.
There you go. So this is the front. You'll notice that all those same sockets are there. So now you can plug your radio's stock mic into the front of the Radio Pro. And when you're not using OHIS, the stock mic is routed through to your radio, right? The only time anything changes is when you hit PTT on your OHIS port. As soon as you hit PTT on the OHIS port, there's a relay inside that flips over and routes the audio, the microphone audio from OHIS. And it disconnects the microphone audio on the pass-through port. And so in this way, you can have both microphones, or, both the stock microphone and headphones and speaker and whatever else connected to your radio and an OHIS. The receive audio comes in and is split and sent off to both places. It's still passed through to the front, so you can plug in a speaker or headphones or whatever you got it plugged into on your radio. But it also gets split and sent off to the OHIS. The microphone, like I said, has a relay that goes back and forth and switches which one is using. And then the PTT is always sent through from both of them.
So, speaking of PTT, I do have a question seeing here. This is an RCA adapter, right?
Correct.
What about those of us that have the quarter-inch jacks? Just the quarter-inch jack to RCA adapter would work?
So, short answer is yes. The more detailed answer is these sockets have labels on them because it would be too confusing to not label them. In reality, any signal can be sent to any pin on any of these connectors.
Okay.
All right. So we've got 4 connectors coming from the headphone or speaker because it's a TRRS socket. Right. So tip, ring 1, ring 2, sleeve. We've got 8 connectors from the GX16, which is the round connector. We've got 8 connectors coming in from the RJ45. We've got another 4 coming in from the 3.5 millimeter microphone. So all 3 of those microphone connectors have all of their individual pins routed to this selection matrix that I'm going to talk about. And then also the 2 pins from the RCA. All of those pins are rows in a matrix.
Okay.
And then all of the signals that OHIS cares about are columns, right? So I've got headphone left, headphone right, headphone ground, mic plus, mic ground, PTT, VCC, power ground, all the different signals that I care about are columns. Right. So inside this adapter is a small config board. It's a couple inches square that has little solder jumper blob areas for connecting a pin to a signal by dropping a solder blob at the right place on that matrix. Good news, you don't have to do that.
Good.
I sell config boards that are pre-configured for all the common radios. It's still there so that if you've got some weird oddball radio with a oddball pinout, you can go modify it. But if you've got one of the, Kenwood, ICOM, Yaesu, Elecraft uses... Elecraft looks like Kenwood, Xiegu looks like ICOM, and Flex looks like Yaesu, I think. Anyway, the secondary radio manufacturers all kind of copied one of the other big 3 manufacturers. Right. So the config boards that I sell work for like all of the big manufacturers at this point.
Okay. So just a simple, so the short version of my question is, yes, a quarter-inch jack to RCA adapter would work on this PTT, yes. Or you could highly modify it.
Yes. So, okay. So I'm sorry. You're right. I answered a question that you didn't ask.
But it's good. We deep dive that too.
Yes. So on the pass-through, I don't necessarily know what the PTT signaling is because I don't get in the way of that. The connectors on the front are connected directly to the connectors on the back.
Okay.
Okay. So the vast majority of radios, in fact, all of them that I'm aware of, trigger PTT by a contact closure to ground.
Right.
Right. And so your foot switch is a contact closure to ground. By default, that PTT RCA is wired as the center conductor is the PTT signal and the outer conductor is ground, is power ground. So yes, you can adapt that into a 1/4 inch to support your foot switch or whatever kind of switch you want.
And there we go. Okay, so we covered those two. Let's and then we already covered the contesting console, which I noticed on the Pro you have a contesting console on top of it.
So one of the listeners to my podcast, the Ham Radio Workbench, a guy named Dale, he bought my Radio Pro and contesting console and a couple of user adapters for him and his wife. They go POTA. I think it's POTA, not SOTA. Yeah, they do Parks on the Air pretty regularly together. And so they liked the idea of having 2 headsets on one radio so they can go back and forth and do a 2-operator POTA
Right.
without having to switch
Pass the mic and
pass the mic and all that crap. Yeah. And the contesting console and the Radio Pro do in fact use the same case. So they are the same dimensions. And so Dale designed this H-shaped 3D printed clip, if you will, that you would slide a Radio Pro in the bottom and a contesting console in the top, and it just keeps them organized, right? It connects them together. I'll go ahead and take credit for it and say I totally designed it consciously so that the OHIS ports are on the same side and the power ports are on the same side. Yes, that was totally intentional and not at all dumb luck. So yeah, the OHIS radio port, the one that connects to the radio from the contesting console, comes out and connects into the OHIS port on the Radio Pro. And then on the flip side of both of these devices, they have the Anderson power poles on them. And so you can feed power into both sides there. In fact, contesting console has 2 Anderson power poles stacked on top of each other. I don't know if that's in any of the pictures. Yes, do the third one. Yeah, so it's got 2 Anderson power poles stacked on top of each other. They are just connected in parallel.
Okay.
So the idea being that you can come in with power and then come back out with power to go to another device. And so the way they've got it rigged, Dale and his wife, is that they've got 1 Anderson power pole coming into the OHIS stack, and then just a short Anderson power pole that goes from the second one into the Radio Pro, right? So the whole thing only takes a single spot on your Anderson power pole splitter.
So much better than some other things, absolutely. Okay. Let's see. We covered all that. Let me switch back over here for now. Let's see. So
thank you, Vid. What's this for again? I'm sorry. Can you go back to the beginning and start over?
Yeah. Well, people did answer quite honestly. Brian said it's the open headset interface standard from Halibut Electronics. And Hollywood, who is a
keep
big...
those hats separate, please. OHIS is not from Halibut Electronics. It is a open source working group. Okay. Admittedly, I am the only member of it at this point, but I don't want it to be that way. I would love for other people to come in and join me. But yes.
A side project of Halibut. How's that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay. Hollywood, who is a big audio engineer, worked at big stations for years out on the East Coast, told Jason, think of them as an analog audio router to make a network in your shack.
Not a bad way to think of it.
Not a bad way at all.
No.
Mark comes back with another question. Any interest from manufacturers?
So, yes, um, I have spoken with several. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head. Several of the big manufacturers. Every single one of them has said that's a really good idea. It'll never happen.
Of course.
Right. And so they say this from a point of experience. Back in I think it was the 80s, someone else tried to standardize microphone connections because of all of the debacle that we had. And the only thing that they could ever get them to agree on was the connector. And that is how we ended up with the GX16, the 8-pin round microphone connector.
Right.
Ignoring the fact that all three of the big manufacturers use a different pinout, and one of them even uses a different style of microphone.
Yeah.
Electrically different style of microphone. So that did not exactly go the way the community wanted it to go. After chatting with them some more, I was able to get two of the manufacturers to say, if you can get the other manufacturers to agree to do this, then we'll do it. Right? The idea being, if it is truly a standard, then we will absolutely adopt the standard. We are not going to be the only ones to adopt some oddball, screwy connector that nobody asked for, or if it's an
Right.
oddball, nobody wants it, right? They only want it if it is a true standard that the community has accepted, and the community being the manufacturers, right? So they don't want to be the only one to do it. Unfortunately, that also means they don't want to be the first one to do it. So this is the uphill battle that I'm talking about. They agree, all the conversations I've had, they agree that it's a good idea. No one has said this is stupid. It shouldn't happen. They've all said it should happen, but they've expressed sincere, I call it optimistic skepticism. Right, where it's like they've expressed skepticism that the other manufacturers would adopt it.
Right.
So I kept that very carefully non brand specific. I will mention one brand, though, which is ICOM. I chatted with Ray Novak, and he seemed especially receptive to the idea once I explained to him that ICOM is already electrically compatible. They don't have to change the design of their radio at all. The only thing that ICOM needs to do is add an RJ45 socket on the radio somewhere with the right signals that already exist inside routed to the correct pins, because they already use electret microphones, which is what the OHIS standard is. They already have a headphone output on on all of their big desktop radios, right? That's what the OHIS is. They already trigger PTT by a contact closure to ground, right? So electrically speaking, they are already compatible. They just need to route those signals to an additional connector. And that is a lower barrier to entry than Yaesu or Kenwood have, where they would have to be able to deal with a different kind of microphone coming in. So I will give them that credit. I will also point out that both Elecraft and Flex are configurable for either a dynamic or an electret microphone. So they also are already compatible, though you wouldn't want the OHIS port to be configurable.
So Chody says, I see a parent trap situation for Mark. He needs to trick the other parent by saying, well, the other one said yes.
Yeah. Yep, exactly.
Go. And Jason asks a very good question, but we'll go over it just in case he missed it. Let me switch over to this screen, though, which disappeared the pop chat, so let me switch back. He asks, would it work for 991 Alpha or FT710, which are both Yaesu radios? And the answer is yes, because you have, well, maybe not on the contour.
Go back to the Radio Pro.
Radio Pro, yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah. Upper right corner.
The answer is yes, because you have this RJ45 microphone adapter right here.
Correct. So it'll work on any Yaesu, any modern Yaesu radio, where modern is defined as the last 30 years. Whether it's got the 8-pin round or the RJ45 microphone connector, it'll work on any of those.
So yes, Jason, this radio, those radios would connect here. You know, the older Yaesu round pins would connect here. The ICOMs, which are the 8-pin round, would work here. So yeah, you definitely. Mark has made this for almost every radio you can think of.
Everyone I know of, all of the standards, right? You're going to find some oddball radio somewhere that it doesn't work. Yeah, like here's an example. I know we got to wrap up soon. The ICOM 705 puts their microphone on a 2.5 millimeter TRRS cable.
Yeah.
And the pinout of that cable is weird and oddball. So the 705 actually is an oddball setup. I have figured out how to configure a config board for the 705, and I did buy a stock of 3.5 to 2.5 millimeter TRRS 4-pin cables, so I can make a radio adapter work with an ICOM 705. But that is an oddball, right? It is not one of the big standards. As long as your radio has one of those standards, then it'll work out of the box with the correct config board. A lot of Yaesu mobile rigs use a 6-pin modular for their microphone instead of the 8-pin modular that's common on the HF radios. I refer to that as the Yaesu mobile. It's a different config board than Yaesu HF, which are the 8-pin modulars. So, and I've got a special cable that I made that is 8-pin modular on one side, 6-pin modular on the other. The 8-pin modular plugs into the microphone port of the Radio Pro, and the 6-pin modular plugs into the microphone port on the Yaesu mobile radios with the 6-pin modular. So yeah, we support all of those.
There you go. Fantastic. Well, Mark, first off, folks, I just dropped a link in the chat for electronics.halibut.com. It does work. It is up and operational. You can get to OHIS from there as well. So, you know, absolutely fantastic. Anything, because we have a minute left here, anything you want to promote or talk about, or, you know, I know you're part of Ham Radio Workbench, so, you know, if you want to promote that, go for it.
Yep. So hamradioworkbench.com is a podcast that I'm on. It's a bi-weekly deep dive into technical topics of interest to the radio amateur is our byline. Be willing, reach out to me afterwards. I'll answer your question. We don't have time for it right now. But yeah, hamradioworkbench.com. And also,
Jody.
electronics.halibut.com.
Jody, reach out to Mark as well. So there you go. Oh, thank you, Mark. Thanks for coming on. Stick around while I wrap things up, and then we'll chat after the show here.
Sounds good.
All right, folks. Well, there you go. You heard it from the man himself. Halibut Electronics is still active, still going, and still creating stuff. As soon as I hit the end button here after the outro, y'all are going to get jumped into T.O.'s Nugget stream. It's going to be a fun one. So I told him a hard 5 minutes before. 73. Put on, y'all.